UPSC very categorically says superfluous answers will not be awarded any marks. Now, the issues are something that continues for, let us say, 4, 5, 6 days, even more for months. There's a bulky newspaper in front of you, and the problem is, hello aspirants, welcome to PW OnlyIAS English. Today we are going to have a very interesting session. It is regarding the newspaper reading. We often get queries that what to read in a newspaper and how to read it. And what the major query is, what not to read in newspapers. So today, the topic of discussion is how and what of the newspaper. Let's see the various dimensions associated with that. We often see that people say that newspaper is a must when you're preparing for a civil services examination. It is. Why? Understand. Newspaper is closely linked to what the UPSC demands. But the major query that the students face is that there's a bulky newspaper in front of you, and the problem is, what are the things that we need to read? What are the things we need to analyze? Remember one thing, if you want to find an answer, then the answer lies in the syllabus of the Union Public Service Commission. The syllabus is notified by the UPSC every year when the notification for the civil services comes. It very categorically gives you the syllabus for all the general studies paper, including the preliminary examination and obviously the optional exams. Once you know what the syllabus is, then it becomes easier for you to read the newspaper, as whatever is mentioned in the syllabus, a similar news related to that article or that topic comes. You know that this topic is related to this topic of that particular general studies paper. That is why we always say, always have the Union Public Service Commission syllabus for civil services examination in front of you. Now let's go further and decipher the various dimensions associated with the newspaper reading. Whenever you read a newspaper, you will come across various facts, various editorials, various analysis. I've just broken down them into further a few categories over here. First set is the stats and facts. Now, these are the one-timers and the one-liners. Sometimes you come across, let us say, a new lizard has been found, or a new variety of banana has been found in some Andaman island, or let us say Lakshadweep, or some other island. Now, these are things that will come only once, and the same news will not be repeated again. Obviously, the institutes like PW, we often pick up that one-liners and put it in your monthly magazine. But over here, remember, these types of information are also important for your preliminary examination. Over here, the role of PW also comes in, where the magazines that are created, we can put these facts so that you can read. But these are only one-liners and one-timers. They might not be repeated again in the newspaper. Second set of things that you see in the newspaper are quasi-static and facts and stat. Now the thing would be, what is quasi over here? Remember, quasi means that a particular thing or a report remains constant for some duration. For example, a report, let us say, on gender parity has come or gender inequality has come that gives a rank of India with respect to certain category. Now that rank would be valid for the complete year. And after 1 year, a new report will come and again a new rank will come. So that particular report is not only important for the preliminary examination, but also for the mains examination, because you can quote those reports when you're writing your answers and various points. Let us say you have a stat for women inequality, women pay disparity. If you have a statistics on that and a report quoting that, you can quote in the issues related to women. So this is second set of, which includes, let us say, reports and certain indices. Third category. Third category of things that are mentioned in the newspaper are issues. Now, the issues are something that continues for, let us say, 4, 5, 6 days, even more for months. Let us assume the Bangladesh crisis is there. Now, the Bangladesh issue or the crisis is not something that will come one day and it will end. No. This will continue over days, over months, and probably years. So this is something, an issue which will continue. When you read through across the various pages of the newspapers, you will be seeing, first, in one sense, certain information would be given, like certain crises has happened, certain new development have happened. In the editorial, you might find a deep analysis of that particular issue. So those things are the issues that are there. Next comes the category of analysis. These are the editorials that are present in your newspaper, and these are the most important category or part of your newspaper, because these tell us how to deal with the Bangladesh issue, for example, how to generate an opinion, because these opinions themselves are of experts. When you have to write the answers in your examination, remember, you are asked how you can resolve this issue, how to deal with this particular problem. It is there. If you read the newspapers, it helps you generate opinions. It helps you gain knowledge from the opinions that are present or given to you from the various brilliant scholars and thinkers. So that is why these are the four types of things you will see in your newspaper. Now remember one thing. When you read the newspapers, it is but obvious that you might miss various facts that would be given in, let us say, the monthly magazines. Again, quasi-static things, reports, these are also mentioned in your monthly magazines. You will say, so the issues, these also broad issues are covered. Sometimes editorials are also mentioned. So what is the need for reading the newspaper? Please remember, the monthly magazines that you students read, from any institute for that matter, that is a compilation of certain issues, pros, cons, and little bit of analysis. That is good. But do you realize one thing that you need to develop is a comprehensive ability? For example, if you're giving a CSAT examination, you will be realizing that if you have to read the passages, in spite of reading so many books, you are not able to comprehend those passages. Why? Because that quality reading has not been done that is expected when you read a newspaper. That is why I'm telling you, newspaper is not only a source of knowledge which you gain, not only the continuity of the issues that you read every day that helps you develop a bit of knowledge. Along with it, it raises the comprehensive ability, the critical thinking, the analysis of the experts help you to create and generate opinions. That is why we always advise from the side of PW on as experts and mentors that please read newspapers. But the question again arises, what to read, what not to read, what is important, what is not important. So I have a newspaper of today in front of me, which I'm going to analyze a little bit from a broad perspective. See what are the things you just need to consider when you're reading the newspapers. Let's see that. This is today's newspaper, 29th August 2024. See, we are not here to analyze the issues or understand what the current affair of today's newspaper has been. We are simply here to make you understand what are the things that you need to take care of, how to read it, right? You must be having this newspaper. If you have today's newspaper in front of you, just keep it along with the video you are seeing and see what is being taught to you by your mentor. Let's see. This is the front page. Now, very important thing is that this main article mentioned certain political parties and all. Please remember, political news is of no importance to us. What we need to basically understand is the issue that is in the backdrop. This is related to the very, very unfortunate instance of a rape of a doctor. That is an issue that has been going on from some time. Now, we need to know what are the issues, what are the laws, what are the judicial angles that are associated, what are the Supreme Court judgments. See, these are because it is something that will continue for some time. The issues, opinions will be coming in the editorial. So we need to analyze it from a very broad perspective. Even the current monthly magazines will cover it. Over here, as a person, political news is of no importance to us. But the issue underlying that is what is important for us. The issue of women's security, issue related to women's rights, issue related to the criminal jurisdiction, issues related to the delay in the judgment. So, because it is a topic that will be coming in the newspaper every day, it has been coming. So, it is like an issue category that we had discussed in the previous aspect. Now, the second thing you will be seeing, it's written Bangladesh interim government lifts ban on the Islamic Party. Now, remember one thing, the moment this is given, this is, let us say, information has been given to you. Now, this information you will see in the coming days will be converted into an editorial. And there is an opinion already given in further pages that shows what are the impacts. This is very important from your understanding that Bangladesh and Islamic Party, you'll be realizing Sheikh Hasina's scenario, she had very friendly relations with India. Coming up of Islamist Party might create issues with the relations with India, possibly. We have to be aware of the implications, not only with respect to India, also of the Indian subcontinent and Bangladesh itself. Possibly Bangladesh relations with ISI of Pakistan will improve, and that will create a problematic situation for India. So we need to be, as persons who are preparing for civil services, be aware of these things when we read it. Because once we read it, automatically the mind should work, okay, this can create issue for India. So this is an opinion that is generating when you read a particular article, because other details will not be of use for us. But yes, these opinions that you know and understand, that becomes important. Now again, the Honorable President of India said the counter mindset that sees women as less capable. Now this is very, very important. This talks about, let us say, the mindset that people have. Now this can be asked from the perspective of your ethics paper. Do you think that the mindset is one of the issues for the problems that the women face? Yes, even if you see the Nirbhaya Kand, the person who had raped, his video come, he said, why a woman is wearing such type of clothes? Do you realize that it is a mindset that is creating hindrances? So this becomes important not only from the perspective of your ethics paper, from the perspective of your essay, even other general studies paper related to issues related to women. If you are answering the question, there might be recommendations when you have written your answers that behavioral aspect or the mindset needs to change. Well, there such examples can be mentioned. So that is why I tell you, newspaper is a storehouse. When you read, you don't have to read everything line by line and everything. It is picking up those important things. Reading a little bit of skimming through this, yes, the important thing is the mindset thing. That is what we need to focus on. Now, if I have to change the mindset, what is important? Education, awareness. It is also the environment in which the person is living. What type of friends one is having. These things also matter. Is the society also responsible for such things? Crime happening? Yes. So we have to have a little bit of opinions generated. Remember, UPSC has very categorically said, we do not want people who are simply rote learners and just reproduce in or produce answers in your paper. We want people who can generate opinions. That is why bureaucracy requires a lot of critical analysis and thinking, because you are there to solve the problems of the people and the nation. Right? Let's move ahead. Over here, you realize that bail, the norm, jail is exception even in PMLA cases. Now you realize that under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, there have been imprisonments. Now this is, from a perspective, do you realize that it is a violation of the rule of law or not? Now these things will become important from the perspective of GS paper 2. For this, you will be realizing that in your monthly magazines also, PMLA Act would be mentioned, its provisions might be mentioned, and you have to make a note of it. Even if it is not mentioned, if you are reading the newspaper, you might just Google it, PMLA, little bit of provisions, so that you are aware what the act is. And when you're reading the newspaper every day, you'll be realizing certain cases are coming up, certain provisions are coming up. When the UPSC prepares the paper for your civil services, when certain these acts are being mentioned, they can be asked in your preliminary also. They pick up what they do. They pick up the provisions of the act because the act was being mentioned in the newspaper. Similarly, because there have been arrests, so in the mains examination, they might ask you, do you feel that the PMLA Act is a violation of the rule of law because it goes against the system of natural justice? Critically examine. So firstly, you need to understand what are the provisions that would be mentioned after the end of the month, obviously in the current monthly magazine. Along with it, if you know the examples which you come daily in the newspaper, you can use that and give the pros and cons and give an answer. So realize this is a storehouse of information. You don't have to do R&D, but what you learn from these news is what is more important. See, it is but obvious if you read a newspaper, you cannot remember everything. But once you see the news as a framework through which you can analyze, that is what is expected from the UPSC examination. What we advise you is take newspaper as a means through which you are increasing your comprehensive ability. Obviously, you are gaining knowledge because the monthly magazine will come and after the end of the month. Newspapers are coming every day. So you are every day updated with the things that are happening around the world and around you. You don't have to wait for the end of the month and you be behind the world by 1 month, right? So that is why we advise you to read the newspapers. When you read the newspapers, automatically the monthly magazines become easier for you to read because you already know the issues that are prevailing and are going on around you. Yeah. So let's move ahead. If we go to the other page, obviously there's a city page. It might not have any major issues that we concern for the civil services examination. Obviously now see, there's a mention of NEP, National Education Policy. Now see, we know that national education policy and aspects related to social justice and all have been mentioned in your paper, GS paper 2. It can also be asked in GS paper 3 also, relating to various topics. The thing is that when these topics are mentioned, if you have no information about it, I always expect you have a laptop with you. Just type what is NEP. Have a little bit of information, because having some information is better than having nothing. Because when we at PW are framing the current affair magazines also, these things keep on coming. We pick up them and put it in the daily current affairs and weekly current affairs. So obviously they are mentioned. But you should be aware what is the significance of these news. Secondly, then if you go here, related to, let us say, other things that are mentioned here might not be of much significance over here, right? Might not be of much significance. Now, over here, the word deep fake is mentioned, right? In the preliminary examination, they can ask you, what do you mean by the concept of deep fake, right? From where do these single words that come in your preliminary examination come from? These are the newspapers, right? These are related to the artificial intelligence softwares which are being used and which are basically creating a serious issue in the digital crime, right? Because they might deepfake a photo of a woman and use it as a pornographic material and can spoil the reputation of n number of women per se, and for that matter, any gender. You should know what is deepfake technology, how it is related to the artificial intelligence. Once you know these basic things, it helps you to develop a lot of understanding. Please remember one thing, this examination requires a curiosity to learn. Once you are curious to learn, it definitely helps you to develop the concept of critical thinking and what is expected for your preliminary and the mains examination. Now, if you see, here it's mentioned like a election in Jammu and Kashmir. Now remember, for us, the political news is not important. We need to know that election in Jammu Kashmir is taking place. We need to know the Article 370. We need to know the aspect of Union Territory status and how again the elections are going to take place. So these are certain things that we need to understand. We don't have to worry about what are the political issues that are there. These are the things we need to know, because using this news, UPSC can prepare questions on the background information. Clear? Let's move ahead. Now, these are advertised. Please remember, you are not here to read matrimonials and all these things. These are not required. Many people waste their time reading the matrimonials. That is not your concern. Focus on your examination. Let us see. We over here have Karnataka governor sends back 11 bills, seeks clarification. Do you realize every year in the GS paper 2 you get the question, do you think that the role of governor has changed, or what are the issues related to the role of a governor? Every time when these types of things happen, whether it is in the state of Karnataka, whether it is the state of Tamil Nadu, the state of, let us say, Uttar Pradesh, it is the state of Uttarakhand, you'll be realizing governor's role or issue sometimes comes that very year. UPSC frames the questions in paper 2, GS paper 2 in the mains examination, questioning the role of the governor, whether it is right or wrong. Then when you have this, these are examples that you can quote in your examination. Obviously, this information is there. Definitely the team is in the monthly magazine also will put this, but you need to know or remember a little bit, yes, in Karnataka, the governor is sending back 11 bills that might bring delay in the laws being passed and creating issues. The analysis of this is also there in the editorial page. So we will see that also. Then again, elderly women dies in a stray dog. Now this is an animal rights versus human right issue. Now this becomes important from the perspective of ethics also, and obviously from the perspective of constitutional aspect also. So this, we need to know at least what the issue is. Clear? One more thing. In the first page, one thing was left, and why I have come back here is the recent news related to the sexual abuse taking place in Kerala. This has been mentioned over here first, and then you will be realizing It's mentioned, just a minute, it's mentioned here also. Why this is becoming very important is because a report has been released with the name HEMA Committee report, which basically tells the various very powerful people from the film industry being involved in the sexual exploitation of women actresses, and which is a major concern. It has even named the actors and the producers in the Kerala film industry. Now, this becomes very important when we are taking a broad discussion of the issues related to women, their rights, victimization of certain people. Then we have issues related to whether women are secure in India or not. Is Delhi the only rape capital, or India as such is facing the issues of rape across the country? Why this is rising? So these things are a major issue that we need to study. And this will be coming in the monthly magazines also. And you are reading over here. So in the editorials, when you read them, it helps you to develop an opinion. You should be aware of certain things, and obviously the editorial helps you to analyze. Now let's move ahead. Now see this one thing. This, though it is an advertisement from the state of Uttarakhand, sometimes these advertisements are also of a good use when you are writing or preparing for civil services. Now it says Uniform Civil Code promoting equality. Remember one thing. In the Hindu 15th of August, or for that matter, the Honorable Prime Minister had mentioned that implementation of a secular civil code will help in promoting social justice and equality. The next day in the newspapers, we see a similar set of articles presenting them. 20th August, you will be realizing there was a detailed analysis in the Hindu itself, even in the editorial and news, that what is a secular civil code, what should be done, how should it be implemented, what are the issues related to that. And again, you said 29th August, we have certain articles related to this. Now, mark my point that in this particular year, you will have questions that what is a secular civil code, how it is different from the concept of a uniform civil code, should it be implemented, or what are the issues? This is being repeated again and again. When something is being repeated again and again and again, it becomes relevant from the perspective of the civil services examination. Even the people who are preparing or the questions for the civil services, they see something is coming, they'll create a question out of it. Now, this is the few times I've mentioned, it is mentioned n number of times. This is something you need to take care. This advertisement presents you the case of Uttarakhand, where the civil code, uniform civil code, has been implemented in the state in 2024, along with obviously Goa had a uniform civil code much prior to that, from I think 1867, but in Uttarakhand it has been implemented in the year 2024. It only excludes the scheduled tribes out of it, because scheduled tribe have their own constitutional rights and status. On the other hand, all other communities are subject to the uniform civil code of the state of Uttarakhand. This is one of the examples that you can quote. So there are certain benefits. These can be taken as case studies sometimes. When you read it, you might not remember everything, but once you have read it properly, it helps you to recall at least something when you're writing your answers. That is why we say newspaper help you develop your opinion, give you certain case studies and examples. And obviously, when you do answer writing, that also is a major component. Without that, these things will not be of any relevance. So this is the aspect. Now, when you come to the editorial, now see, please understand, these editorials now depends upon what the news is. Sometimes if it is a political issue or dimension, you might neglect it. But when you are reading, let us say you're reading war, India is not well placed as a broker to ceasefire Ukraine and Russia. Now realize it is related to the Prime Minister's visit to Ukraine. Now, what is the significance of that visit? Will visit to Ukraine strain relations with Russia? Strain relations with, let us say, or closer relations with US or not? These are the things. Any activity or visit by the Prime Minister becomes very significant from the international relations perspective. Any visit is there, it will have its significance. You will be seeing, when you read these things, you get an opinion. And obviously, in the current affair magazines, you get it a detailed opinion also. So you are updated every day of what is going on around the world. Next, we see there's a article silent democratic backlash in South Asia. Now, this is related to, let us say, international relations also. It is obviously related to GS paper 2. Now, this article is over here. We'll not go into the analysis, but you will be seeing that it compares India and Pakistan throughout the various years right from the independence. They say that in Pakistan, there have been issues of military coup d'etat where military has taken place. There have been ups and downs in India with respect to the elections. But we realize that it is the people who have been playing a very important role for keeping the democracy alive as a silent march or a silent process. So over here comes the aspect of democracy and the importance of democracy for the people. Democracy might not be the best form of government, but it is definitely a better form of government than the others that we have. So over here, this similar question can be asked. Do you realize that democracy, in spite of democracy, significance of democracy, or in spite of so many problems faced by India and its neighbors, it is the democracy that is supreme? When such types of questions come, when you know what is democracy, what are the issues in democracy, what are the problems with democracy, these examples which you read over here, whether it is related to Pakistan, whether it is related to India, they help you to generate an opinion. They give you an opinion. It helps you critically analyze a problem. Similarly, and then you will be seeing that anti-tuberculosis fight by Dr. Randeep Gulare, who is very known for the person as heading the National COVID Task Force. Now, this is, you will be realizing, is it important to read it? Please understand. It might not be directly important, like they might not ask you directly, but what do you realize of briefly skimming through these articles? You know what is the burden of TB, problems, and what can be resolved. When you read these articles, you have an expert opinion. You have to be answer creators in UPSC. You cannot merely go by rote learning. So when you read these articles, it takes time initially. Yes, it will take a few hours, but slowly, when your comprehensive ability increases, when you're speeding, the rate at which you read increases, you can definitely read at a faster rate, right? So these are articles. This is related to health, which can be asked even in paper 3, GS paper 3. You can skim. You cannot, no need to read every minute details, but yes, certain problems and resolutions that have been present, or for that matter, the program National TB Prevention Survey or strategies have been mentioned. You can just read that. Those are the things we need to be careful about. Again, focus on trial. Agencies should shed fixation on keeping people in jail. Do you realize this was the thing that was mentioned with respect to the first topic over here, right? Based on this news, there is an editorial. Now, that front page news was simply stating what has happened. Editorial part generates an opinion on that. In the UPSC examination also, you are the one who have to write those aspects which are being asked. That is why editorial helps you to analyze what type of answers one has to generate or at what level one has to be. Clear? So, jail reforms, reforms in the criminal law, all these are required. Yeah. So broadly, if you see what is editorial importance, developing new ideas, counter opinions, what can be the counter opinions? Because questions are asked, let us say critically examine. In that particular case, when a particular question is given, you might be given certain opinions. Editorial help you to develop the counter opinions also. Counter opinions, comprehensive ability to understand what is being there. When you read the CSAT, so many comprehensions come. 50% is comprehension. Why aren't you able to understand them? Because you haven't read editorials. You are not able to decipher what is the meaning. Now, tomorrow, if you are able to read these and understand what is it saying, similar things are being asked in your CSAT also. And for that matter, the questions answers in your main examination have various parts inside them. They might be asking multiple things. If you are not able to decipher the question, how will you answer them? These editorials help you to understand what is being asked, right? Again, a knowledge storehouse, and definitely when you do answer writing as a practice, they help you in all these ways that have been mentioned above. Next is, for example, there is a topic, you remember we had mentioned Karnataka issue with respect to the 11 bills that are being returned. So this is a topic related to that. Now, automatically remember, mark my word, a question would be asked on the role of the governor, and here one of the opinions that have been mentioned here can be used. In the current affair magazine also this topic will come, and UPSC will also pick it up. These are the things you know, because role of governor is one of the topics that is mentioned in GS paper 2. They will ask you from them. So do you realize if you know the syllabus, you know what to read? Now, GS paper 3 mentions about the aspect of environment and all the aspects. So carbon market is mentioned over here. Now, obviously these topic will be covered in the monthly magazine, but over here you see the opinions that are there. So what does this teach you? Carbon market, PAT, perform, achieve, trade, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, what it is, polluter principle, NAPCC, uniform emission trading system. Now, these are the things that are mentioned here. Sometimes what happens is, do not read it just for the simple sake that I have to read it. When you get certain words, Google it. It takes little bit of time, but remember it is worth it. Because once you Google it, you take little bit of effort, you will remember these things to some extent, and even in these questions become very important from the preliminary examination point of view, where they can be asked directly. Clear? Next, now with respect to polio. Now, when polio is mentioned, you will be realizing, sir, do we have to go through this article completely? No, it becomes difficult. But you should know what is polio, right? Whether it is related to some virus, whether bacteria, or what type of pathogen it is related to. Is there any cure? UPSC will ask such simple questions, but because we haven't read, we are not able to solve it with respect to prelims and obviously broader level at the mains level, right? Now let's move ahead. Here also you see Ukraine. I had mentioned the concept of issues. Now this Ukraine issue is not that is new. It has been continuing from such a long time and it will continue. What is important is if you are updated with the new things or happenings that are taking place, like the Prime Minister's visit to Ukraine, then the continuity is there and various opinions are generated. And at last, when you have read these, the critical thinking develops. Second thing also, there's a map here. Now, I will not say that you just keep on seeing this map, but remember one thing, there are certain questions in the preliminary examination where map questions can be asked. In that, with that respect, having a view of, let us say, certain places becomes important, right? Obviously, the monthly magazines also do use this, but just have a look because it is always better to be a little better prepared than your competitor. Next are the broad things that are mentioned here. Then obviously you will be seeing there's a recent news that is going on, Bengal to pass ensure death penalty for the rape. Tomorrow, mark my word, the question would be, is death penalty a solution to fight the cause or fight the issues of rape? This can be asked in your GS paper too. So over here, you have just seen this is a news because of the issues. There can be pros, there can be cons, and what should be the way forward. The way forward, you will be using certain judgments of the Supreme Court, High Courts, and the committee reports like Administrative Reform Commissions also for that matter. So these things become important from that perspective. Yes, the comprehensive picture regarding this point would be covered in your monthly magazine. But you realize monthly magazine comes after 1 month, after complete month. When you read these, you are updated to what is happening. It becomes easier and you can read the monthly magazines also faster if you're reading the newspapers, right? Let's move ahead. Now over here you see there's mentioned standing committee. Now when you read the polity, let us say Lakshmikant, you should know what is standing committee, what are parliamentary committees, what is joint parliamentary committee. So standing committee is there because it is mentioned in the newspaper. A person who's preparing for civil services questions will or possibly can generate a question on this. That is why these things, knowing what is standing committee because it is mentioned, make sure you Google it. At least you're reading in your polity. Make sure you know it. Again, we see Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Now this year marks 10th anniversary of this. You realize in the paper GS paper 2, schemes and issues related to them and all. So it is by default because it is marking an anniversary. In the paper it can be asked, critically examine the performance of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. What happens? You should be knowing the components. You should be knowing what the performance has been. Yes, again, because it is a major news, it will be covered in the monthly magazines. But as a person who is reading the newspaper, have a laptop and Google with you. Just read what are the components. Okay, there have been certain issues or not. That makes you a better aware person because this will again be asked in your examination, not only preliminary but also mains. Next, effective policy key to promoting economic growth. Now, these are certain aspects which are help you to generate opinions. How policy help you in generating, let us say, economic growth? How now this is something that can be used as a means of analysis. For example, if there is a complex policies, now it will lead to a complex structure and delay in the economic growth. For example, the Administrative Reform Commission mentions, the report to second Administrative Reform Commission mentions that we have a lot of hierarchical structure. Now that creates delay. If we have a matrix structure, it can basically lessen the delay. So these are the certain things, because I know that this topic is mentioned, we can relate it with all the policies, schemes, the issues, and then we can create opinions. And this is a first step before you write any answers. If you do not have any opinion, if you have not read anything, if you write answers, those answers will not make any relevance, right? So reading these help you to gain some knowledge and generate opinion. Next. Okay, environment ignored in the Andaman Nicobar project. Now see, there's a constant debate that keeps on in GS3, environment versus development. For example, in the Uttarakhand expressway linking Dehradun and Delhi, there were many thousands of trees that were cut down. Now that is also an example. Over here, Andaman or Nicobar projects or the Port Blair project, they can be cited as examples of a contradiction or a paradox, whether development should take place or environmental is important. So these things become important. The questions have been asked. These things basically present you with case studies when you quote in your answers, because UPSC very categorically says superfluous answers will not be awarded any marks. When you just write a point and do not write any example in your answers, those are superfluous answers. That is why newspaper give you a there's a storehouse of examples. This can be used there. Again, transmission of Chandipur virus, you need to know what is Chandipura, because obviously by the time the current affair magazines comes after a month, they might be analyzing this, but you should know what it is, so at least you will be aware of those things that are happening. This initially takes time, but once you get a habit of it, you can read the newspapers very, very quickly, right? Now, AI will revolutionize financial services. Question can come in your examination. How AI can aid the various sectors? So do you realize one of the examples is financial service? It can be asked. How can AI help in financial inclusion? So when you read these articles, it is going to help you with, let us say, this is also a field where AI can be used, right? Next, again, Bangladesh lifts a ban on Jama. This is something that we read in the first part only. This is an international relations or world part. This is, I would say, please read it completely and properly. This is a very important aspect because so many things are happening across the world. You should be aware of it. International relations page should be read well, because over here you'll be seeing Bangladesh issue, Dhaka, Israel, China wants US, South Korean issues, Afghan women protesting. So again, this is one page you should be reading well, because as it is, we are reading so many news related to India and other aspects. This is one page that will give you a perspective of the world. Many people ask what to read in the international relations. Remember, this page of international relations, the editorial that comes on the international relations, and obviously the current affairs which the institute gives you with respect to international relations are the best storehouse for the material that you require for answer writing, nothing else, right? So please make sure you read this page well, because international relations is something very important. Now again, I won't say that this news is now useless, because in the prelims you can be asked. So what I can basically say is just skim through certain things. Like if Paralympics is asked, okay, who is leading the Indian contingent, where it is happening, little information with respect to, you can just skim. Do not go into the details, because otherwise it will take a lot of time. Similarly, for the sports page, that is it. Yeah, okay. Remember one more thing, because it is Thursday. Thursday you have a good resource of science topic being mentioned. So remember, these are topics, whenever these disaster management, all these topics come, these are important from the perspective that these give you an opinion that what things or what can be done or what should not be done. Every year, topic of disaster management, environment, and development, contradiction, and paradoxes come. You don't have to read each and everything, but just go through the things and skim and see what is certain thing that you do not know is mentioned here. Firstly, it will definitely give you a idea of certain case studies or examples. Now you'll be saying, sir, so many things are coming, how we will remember? You will not remember everything, but definitely your brain will remember something when you write the answers. This is something initially I also never agreed to, but when I started doing it myself, it was very, very clear. Okay. Now this is, let us say, microplastics. Now you need to know what is microplastic. This is again repeatedly mentioned in your science section of the monthly magazines also, but when it is mentioned, search what is microplastic. This is very important. So these are certain things that you need to do, right? Okay. So this is the part of the newspaper which we have on 29th August 2024. Please remember one thing. Newspaper reading, many people would say, is it important or not? I would say it is the very essential ingredient of your civil services examination. Why? Because the reason is there are certain issues with the Indian education system itself. How? We over the years have been trained or learned that if we do rote learning, we can get marks, right? This is generally the aspects of the Indian education system flaw that is there. Civil services does not accept that, because in this you're asked questions in the mains examination and you have to be answer creators. You might be knowing things, so many facts, so many such information that is there. But at that particular point, you need to create an answer based on the requirement of the question. If you do not have the ability to generate opinions and recollect the information that you have, you cannot write good answers, or neither you can write answers nor you can qualify this examination. Over there, the newspapers are the ones which help you to build or generate that ability. Current affair magazines help you with the information that is there. Newspapers increases your comprehensive ability and ability to analyze. We will be starting with a series of the current affairs and various things. It is my expectation from you, and possibly you learn from that. You would have seen so many things are there, but we have to read what and what not to read, and from what aspects we have to consider while we are reading. So God bless you all. Make sure that you read and make this habit of reading newspaper like a daily medicine. It is as important to you as you're drinking water or inhaling oxygen or exhaling carbon dioxide, right? So God bless you all. We'll meet again with a series and a lot of interesting things coming up. God bless you. Take care. Signing off from here at PW Only IAS English channel. Jai Hind.